Live long and prosper, nerds. This is the Aligning the Stars podcast. My name is Jordan.
I'm Matt.
Awesome. And we are here to do episode 1, an official episode 1 of our podcast. If you did listen for episode 0, we really appreciate it. There was some feedback, but, we weren't expecting too much. And so, as of this moment, 28 views?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I mean... Shit, 28 views, 28 people decided to sit down and listen to us talk about nerd shit, and I can't complain about that. And so, I guess to kind of start it off with, since the first episode 0 debuted, we've been kind of doing some thinking, doing some...
Scheming
would be a good way of putting it, absolutely. Just for content and stuff like that. And so, we kind of have a little bit more of a focused idea of kind of where we're going to be going with it. This episode today is actually going to be a little bit more of a Star Wars focused episode. And you'll see why. We're going to review Mando Season 2 in our own little way. We're not going to do the cliche reviews and all that. It's more like, here's what we saw, here's what we liked, and, here's what our thoughts on, because it's crazy. It's crazy what happened in Season 2. And so we're going to get there. We are going to throw some Star Trek in there. Don't you worry about that. Most of the Star Trek is going to actually be coming from Matt today, which is odd. But it's actually perfect. I think that one of the things with this podcast is kind of forcing both of us to kind of look at things maybe a little bit differently. And, he was already on his Voyager path. And
I was.
But he also has been reading the new High Republic book. What is it?
Light of the Jedi.
Light of the Jedi. Once again, I'm so far behind on the books right now. It's kind of sad. So, we've kind of gotten there. And, we've also, I guess, without saying too much, I'm going to retract what I said we were going to do for this episode. So we're not going to call out fans just yet. That will happen. But I don't think it's a good way of kind of like introducing and getting a podcast going and what have you. It is too negative. And I also, we have our thoughts on YouTube channels, and there's, a couple out there. We have no business talking about them at all.
We should just be doing us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that's kind of, the retraction is starting there. We chose to, instead of doing that, we're going to do a season review, talk a little bit about Star Trek and kind of where things are at right now, what we're doing, and... kind of from there, it's really just going to be Star Wars and Star Wars, which is going to be awesome. So, I guess the first thing for me, what I've been doing the last, it's been about a week and a half since we recorded?
Just about.
Yeah, we were supposed to record last Saturday, but I own a piece of crap car. And we decided to have different ideas about that, but we are here. So I've been watching, I basically finished Rebels, rewatched Mandalorian Season 2 in one night. No regrets. And then from there, just watched the last 2 episodes of Discovery. My mind is blown.
And we're going to be talking about that next time.
Absolutely. We cannot wait to talk about that. I'm still kind of like digesting. Yeah, I've only seen it once, which is odd. So, we're excited to be able to talk about that next time. It's definitely going to be more of a Star Trek focused episode next time. And I think that's where...
At least when the TV shows are coming out, like we're going to, especially near the end, when we do our reviews, we'll switch off with each of the series on what we're talking about. But, if it ever aligns again where both Star Wars and Star Trek shows are coming out, well, that'll be a bit smoother until the discussion at the end.
Exactly. So we're here to talk about Star Wars and Star Trek.
Right. And if we, combine the two, then it's just, very dense. And you don't get a break from from just like going all in and looking at the fine detail and, dissecting everything. It's nice to have a little break and not have, especially in between recordings.
Exactly.
To not go all in and just overwhelm everything and everyone.
So, I guess for me, like I said, that's where I was at. Finished Rebels, rewatched Mando season 2, and finished Discovery. What you been up to?
As far as Star Trek goes, I'll start with that. I'm in like season 3, episode 5 or 7 of Voyager at the moment, and I got to the episode where Neelix and Tuvok combined because of an orchid.
Yes. Oh, God.
And I've seen snippets of that episode where Tuvix has that plea to Janeway about who he is, the being that he is. And I understood the essence of that episode just through clips and other people talking about it. But so I went into that episode going, all right, this might be a goofy episode. I am preparing myself for a goofy episode because, hey, you got two strong opposites of each other, and oopsie daisy, look at, we mashed them together. And what I got out of it was much more than I was expecting.
What's funny is, like, he told me he saw the episode, just like we were talking right before this started, and he told me he watched the episode, and I'm like, really? That sucks. And
I said, like, it was actually really good. I mean, without going too much into it, you'd have essentially a combination of Tuvok and Neelix, and it is the best of both of them.
Which is interesting.
You have Tuvok, who's orderly and neat, and I mean, obviously emotionally constipated because he's a Vulcan.
Right.
But also creatively. Now, Vulcans have arts, they have culture, they have music, but when you combine it with how eccentric Neelix is, and how over the top he is, which aside from when he's jealous, he doesn't bother me. You combine that, and the main scene that sticks out for me is when Tuvix is cooking, where Janeway and everyone else is like, this is so much better. Like, you have the radical cooking of Neelix, but then is tempered down by Tuvok's wisdom and consideration for other people's palates.
Right.
Not always putting I'm blanking out on the root he always he insists on putting on everything.
Yeah.
But modifying the spicy and all that stuff. And not only that, the message of that Janeway says, when did Tuvix stop being a transporter accident and became an actual person and a crew member who, in the 2 weeks that he was combined, formed friendships? I think it was either 2 weeks or 2 months, but
something like that.
It was something like that. It was 2 of something. 2 of 9? No, wait. So forming all these relationships and becoming his own person, and the crew, especially with Cass and Janeway, both having lost Tuvok and Neelix respectively, and having to come to terms with that, or wrestling with it is more accurate.
Yeah,
because technically Tuvix has memories of both, has the love for both of them still there, has their memories, but he is his own person now, and they have to come to terms with that. And at the end, they're pulled apart.
I remember a little, as you were talking, I've been like picking up pieces of it I remember from the episode. Like, for me in Voyager, I think I may have watched it one time through when it was coming out, like obviously catching reruns here and there, but Voyager was never really my favorite show.
Right. It wasn't a passionate watch.
Exactly. And it was like the letdown after Deep Space Nine and all that jazz. I can relate to that. You're feeling it right now for sure. Yeah. And so, but as you were going through and talking about that, I'm definitely like snapping back, and it's really that interesting, typical Star Trek conundrum, right? Like you have these two beings who have every right to life, right? Every right. You can talk about the McCoy paradox with transporters and how he didn't like having his atoms scrambled.
Right.
But then an accident leads to the two of them being combined to create this new person who has every right to live.
As much as the other two did.
Exactly. And so that's what Star Trek does best.
Yeah.
It's when I kind of dismissed the episode as kind of like, whatever.
You're
you
right.
know, like it's just a throwaway. But now that I think about it, it really is an interesting moral dilemma that Janeway had to face. Was like, well, how do I end this life that exists, but it ends these other two lives? And
should I? And ultimately, she does decide to split
them up. And was that done from a scientific standpoint, or was it done out of love? And I think for her, it's done out of love, and it's so interesting. That is so interesting. The captain who's forced to love as opposed to follow duty, which is interesting.
I think I can't exactly say that Janeway made the wrong choice,
Right.
but she definitely made the more emotional choice.
Yeah.
Sacrificing one person to save both. Yes, you hear multiple times in multiple Star Trek series about the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and also flipped versions of that.
Yes.
But you take that and the way it is shot, the way it is done, that it's against Tuvik's will. He goes along with it.
Yeah,
but it's all under protest.
Yeah.
Because he, like we said, he has every right to exist.
Yeah.
And while it is sad that both of them were lost, died, those beings died.
Right.
Ultimately, who is the captain to say who gets to live, who gets? I mean, that is the captain's.
That's the job.
That's the job.
Yeah.
Those are the hard calls, and I disagreed with Janeway. I still love Janeway right now, but I disagreed with her in that choice. I think that Kes and eventually Janeway, but mostly Kes, was making steps in accepting and moving forward with Tuvix. What Kes strived to do after a period of taking time for herself, both of them coming back together and goes, look, I still care about you.
Right.
Like, hey, let's just be friends and just see how it goes. Let's just there's a base level of that and also Kes got the better end of the deal because Tuvok was also her mentor.
Right.
So,
exactly. It's the best of both worlds.
She got the best of both worlds technically.
Right.
So, I mean, I that's a standout episode that I came across recently.
That's awesome.
I mean, obviously we watched Discovery.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that. I really liked the last episode. I really liked the last 3 episodes.
Honestly, the last 3 and even going back to the 2 Mirror Universe episodes before that, this season of Discovery has just been
was very good in making that transition over from the old timeline to the new one and establishing, hey, where are we right now?
Yeah.
And then going, okay, now that we have a groundwork, now that we have, and also it helped that I'm not calling Osira a lesser villain.
Right.
Or that she's not worth the title of being a villain. She is. Just on the whole scale. It's not the Romulans, it's not Klingons, it's not this huge government force.
Yeah.
Well, it almost is. It almost is.
It is, but it isn't.
But it's very personal. We get that hint in the first episode 3 or 4 and of Osira, and then pretty soon after Osira shows up, and then it's very personal between her and the crew of Discovery.
Right.
And it makes it feel much closer to Discovery than, oh, you know, ooh, look at the new Borg now, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not calling her like a lot. She's a good villain.
Yeah.
And a good villain to enter in to establish the good, the bad, and the ugly of the new world that they've found themselves in.
Agreed. Yeah.
So there's that. As far as Star Wars, Light of the Jedi, I have been immensely pleased with the book. Again, I won't go into spoilers. I'll probably make this a focused episode on my own. If I put together a script, and you can bet Jordan's going to proofread that.
Yeah.
But boiling it down, Light of the Jedi is Jedi at their most Jedi.
Awesome.
Where they are everything you've heard about from the prequels, from the legends that were told in the original trilogy. The peak of the Jedi. And this is just 100 years ago.
Wow.
Which is crazy that this was just 100 years ago that they were at this point. Their morals are intact. I will drop a couple things to tease you guys in, because everyone should read this. It is so, I think, just uplifting to see the Jedi at their peak.
That's awesome. And
it even boils down to tools that they use outside of their lightsabers.
Wow.
You have, everyone is essentially working towards the light. They have different paths. They have different, thoughts, but they're all given space to grow. And
interesting.
It's all, the outer rim is essentially wild space right now. It is hard to get there. You can tell that established hyperspace routes aren't as defined as they are in the time that we are more
during the Skywalker saga.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will drop a couple things that are mentioned in the book that are amazing. It doesn't spoil anything. It's just vehicles.
Okay. Awesome.
The Jedi spacecraft is called a Vector.
Okay.
It is more light, more nimble than the closest thing I can say is the starfighters in Clone Wars. More accurately, it feels like a TIE fighter.
Interesting.
But it is tuned to rumble, shake, so that the Jedi feel everything, so they can make those split reactions. It is essentially if TIE fighters were manned by Jedi.
Wow. Hell yeah.
They have weapons on those crafts that are lightsaber activated.
What?
That they can't fire unless a lightsaber is inserted in.
What?
And it's powered by the Kyber crystal.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It also shoots beams of the color of the lightsaber.
Oh my god. Yes.
Dude, when I heard that, and that's in like the first couple chapters.
Seriously? Wow.
And I heard that, I go, oh my gosh, they can adjust the settings so that shots can be max power or stun or just inhabilitate.
Wow.
It's not they can make shots not to kill.
That is
just to disable. It is Jedi. It reflects the Jedi mindset, the values of it.
Interesting.
This carries out to how problems are addressed, to what efforts they make in peace in the galaxy. Refreshing to see the Jedi who all have this group awareness and effort and want to actively help the citizens of the Republic.
Nice.
And that is their primary purpose, is helping those who need it.
Actually being defenders of peace.
Actually being defenders of peace. That's why the outposts are there. They have Jedi outposts on different planets.
Wow.
To help keep the peace.
Wow.
To help fight evil and marauders.
So I was going to ask, though, is there like a big bad?
There is a big bad.
Okay.
I have not, as of right now, I am 45 minutes away from finishing the book.
Nice.
So I haven't gotten the climax yet. I don't know it yet. But there is a big bad. And it does have big effects and is a big worry for a republic who's trying to reach out and establish the Starlight Beacon, I think. It's something like that. But there is cool Jedi tech. There is very cool Jedi that you meet along the way. You were introduced to a lot of Jedi in this book.
Interesting.
I mean, you can see it in the cover. There's a yellow lightsaber.
Yeah, I saw a purple lightsaber.
There's a purple lightsaber. There's a dark blue lightsaber. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So one of the things I saw last night while tooling around on YouTube actually was Kathleen Kennedy's kind of like presentation. It was like a 56-minute presentation of the High Republic. I got to be honest, I maybe only watched the opening preview for a half second before I passed out, and I was intending on getting to it, but from what I did see, it looked really interesting. And they did kind of allude to a big bad, and without pressuring you, I'm curious because they keep digging into Legends a little bit here and there, and I'm curious if the big bad is an old Legends foe.
Again, haven't finished the book.
Yeah.
And I'm not really well versed in Legends.
Yeah.
But if it's a big name that a lot of us know, I don't think it is.
Interesting. I like that idea.
If it's the not force force resistant or whatever, it's not them. There is a character that shows up, and it's a name where I go, oh, wait a minute, and I search it up and go, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
So there's also, as a Star Wars book does, there's also other named planets that are dropped.
Of course.
I won't give away any of them, but I looked it up and I go, ooh, it's from that and that and that. I knew it showed up.
They're doing it.
Ooh, it was from Tarkin. Ooh, it's a Tarkin planet.
Oh.
See, now, yeah, it's
okay.
I thoroughly have been enjoying Light of the Jedi, and I am very excited with the High Republic and knowing what's going on. There's another one I don't remember the name of that's come out recently. It's below young adult.
Oh.
So that's one of the ones that escapes my reading list. I will check it out. But there's a certain limit that I will embed myself into for books. It's young adult and above.
The only young adult Star Wars that I've read is Ahsoka, obviously, and
Lost Stars.
Lost Stars. Although I think Lost Stars is probably one of the most heavy young adult books.
It is the most.
It's 700-800 pages.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of insane. And
yes.
It's also a fantastic story.
It is.
Really.
Claudia Gray did.
Claudia Gray does what she does best. Yeah.
Who knew that? Like I enjoy so many Claudia Gray books.
She wrote a bunch of Star Trek books too, and
you just remind me of something else.
Nice. I mean, Claudia Gray is like one of the great sci-fi writers, and I'm just excited. Like, I'm so far behind on the books. It's kind of pathetic, and so I still have yet to finish Master and Apprentice. What I am going to be doing, I do a lot of commuting. I drive about 50 miles back and forth to work, roughly every day. Like that's each way.
Yeah.
And so like I don't listen to much music anymore because I get tired of it. And so I keep telling myself I'm going to download Dooku and do the audiobook that way. And I think it's going to be the best way of doing that.
I keep encouraging you to do that because it's...
And the voice acting.
You get immersed. Oh, that's the other thing. If you guys like listening to audiobooks, there's a benefit to listening to Light of the Jedi in audiobook form is that's a new soundtrack.
Oh.
So many of the books that have come out on audiobook so far have used songs that have appeared in Star Wars TV shows, movies, obviously.
Yeah.
And after years of listening to it, I can go, oh, that is the suspense song that they used from this movie in every book. And listening to Light of the Jedi, it's like, oh, these sound like new compositions because this is a new world that they're exploring.
Well, and this apparently the High Republic is going to be nothing but in book form. We're not going to see any other media this way. I mean, they might later on, but for the short term, we're talking comics, books, and other. I can't remember there was a third media form that they were looking at doing.
I mean, it's not games, right?
It could be.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that one for sure. But
books, comics.
There's another form of media in there. I can't remember what it is.
Telegrams. It's telegrams.
It's definitely telegrams. Nickelodeons.
That one flew over my head. I'm like, the TV show with SpongeBob?
Right? What are you talking about?
But before we head into the meat of the podcast, I wanted to share some trivia. I love trivia.
I love it.
I recently was going through a whole bunch of Star Wars voice actors and Star Trek Star Trek actors who,
may have crossed over.
This is from Rebels. The captain from Discovery Season 1. Jason Isaacs.
Yeah.
He was the voice of the Inquisitor.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Like the Grand
Inquisitor. I believe the Grand Inquisitor. It says Inquisitor on...
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Also, Brent Spiner was also in Rebels.
He was in Rebels?
Yeah.
What did he play?
Gal Travis.
He put what? I'm actually okay. I hate to say it, but I just kind of restarted Rebels again.
You just finished, and you're like,
it's basically been on a loop. I'm coming up on that episode here real quick. I can't wait to hear that. That is awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm like, this is the perfect one. This is the perfect trivia for the podcast.
That is amazing.
The crossover of actors in each medium.
Yeah,
in each series.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is
the other one, and this is a shout out to Doctor Who fans. The Bendu was Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor.
Wow.
He's 84 years old.
That is
He's
so cool.
still doing roles.
Voice acting. Yeah,
I
love his voice.
It's so good.
The Bendu's voice is so good. They just Kanan Jarrus, just the way the inflection on his voice. Oh, it is so good. I also like to shout out to Simon Pegg.
Yes, Simon Pegg.
The only major actor to actually cross over on both Star Wars and Star Trek, although you wouldn't know Simon Pegg in The Force Awakens unless you knew about it. And he was the junk vendor that was selling the rations.
Did he do something in 8 as well? But it was all not his face.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think it's and what's funny about that is Simon Pegg is the nerd god. I mean, he's one of those nerd gods, he really is. And of all of the castings for Star Trek, the JJ Star Trek movies, I thought that although James Doohan can never be replaced. There's just no replacing Doohan. But if there's any person who can nail that Scottish accent quite like Pegg, there's just no better. I mean, you can talk about Zachary Quinto as Spock. He does an amazing Spock, although the Spock itself is kind of a trash Spock. I'm whiny. But
hot takes,
yeah, I'm whiny, bitch. That's not Spock. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I think that's a cool little thing to do. If we can find more stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's
I'm hoping I find another little tidbit to share.
That is so cool.
Because I was going through, I'm like, okay, I should add some more Star Trek, Star Wars people on Twitter to follow.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, going down the shows, and I keep scrolling on Rebels, and I go, wait, what?
That is so cool.
So
cool.
So cool.
Kind of a Jason Isaacs reference. He was a great captain. I thought that Lorca, he never felt right.
No, he didn't.
Ever. And that was the whole point.
Yeah.
And Haven't played some Star Trek Online recently. I've just started getting into Star Trek Online. I downloaded Star Trek Online when it debuted in 2009.
That was before Discovery.
Yeah, long before. And, I had played through, online several times. And never was I really able to, like, super get into it just because I knew that the story wasn't quite right. But I just re-downloaded it for Xbox. It's free on Xbox. It's an MMO, so of course it's free. And they have a Discovery startup, like where you can start out in the timeline of Discovery. And Jason Isaac voiced Lorca. A lot of the actors, like Mary Wiseman, who plays Tilly, she's in there. You know, they dropped some Kirk references in it. It's pretty cool. Like, Kirk was supposed to be at the Academy at the same time as Tilly. I did some checking, and sure as shit, they got their timelines right. I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk tried to tag Tilly, now that I think about it. I mean, it's Kirk, but
it's Kirk.
But yeah, so Isaac's. What's interesting is the Star Trek Online character for Lorca is the non-mirror universe version of it. So you see this version of Lorca where it's like, oh man, you rock. Like,
it's only alluded to in the show.
Exactly, and you get just this, like, maybe 4 or 5 mission thing with Lorca, and you're left wanting for more, and that's what I love about that character. So yeah, just kind of a little bit of shout out to that one as well. Just kind of a Star Trek Online reference. All right, so I guess, do we do it?
Yeah, let's move in.
Season 2. All right, so the plan was to record last Saturday.
Yes.
And
in order to avoid having the overlap of Discovery's finale being aired so recently to when we record.
I know. And like I said, I got a piece of shit car. We're going to kind of talk about season 2, not in like an episode by episode review. I would have done that if I had brought my notes.
Yeah. Essentially, I mean, we just jump into it, and we're not going to go episode by episode, but we're just going to talk about standout episodes, standout points in episodes, and just kind of what we liked, what we thought was interesting, what challenges we had as armchair critics.
Yeah, and there's also the the side of it too, like, I guess where to start would be the connection to the bigger Star Wars world.
Which was interesting compared to season 1, which was very contained.
Right.
In season 2, we got looks at characters who we thought would never see.
Yeah. Like, straight up, like, did you ever think that you would see Ahsoka Tano in live action?
There was always hope. It's the same hope as eventually seeing Thrawn in any live action capacity.
Right.
I didn't ever expect that we would see Ahsoka, Bo-Katan. Actually, more so Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan made sense.
I could see Bo-Katan showing up, but Ahsoka, I mean, granted, we were dropped with being left with the people, and after season 1, we were like, oh, obviously it's Yoda's people.
Right.
But then we get flipped on the head going, nope, just any
Jedi. Any Jedi.
Any Jedi. Hey, whoever shows up, I have a kid.
Take him?
Can you make him a space wizard for me?
Nice. Well, and that's the thing. Like, season 1 was very self-contained.
Self-contained, yeah.
I think, what was the biggest, like, kind of connection to the bigger world in season 1?
The biggest one that stands out to me was the Darksaber.
Absolutely.
That's the main one that stands out.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. And it wasn't until the last second of the last episode.
Yeah.
By the way, we're in the bigger universe, and you're going to see this little bit here.
Yeah.
And you will get it in the last second.
And that's a little tease, because that thing's important.
Yeah.
And so it has to have a role to play.
Absolutely.
And sure enough, like...
Oh, it does.
Who did we last see have it? Oh, no, it was Bo-Katan. What happened to Bo-Katan?
Right.
Well, there we go. Bo-Katan, episode 4.
Yeah.
Just, there she is.
There she is. And, to have Katie Sackhoff. Is that a thing? Like, you voice act... Like, Katie Sackhoff, I I don't know how familiar you are with her.
I'm not super familiar with her, but
so I like Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Her character Starbuck, I was in love with. It was either because of the brashness of the character, or like without going too much into what happened at the end of Battlestar Galactica, how important her character was to that show.
Sure.
So we knew that Katie Sackhoff had voiced Bo-Katan,
Right.
and to have the three of them drop in like that, and you see the owl on her helmet, and
she's also in that unique position where she can portray her.
She's the perfect age.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get any better. It's not like James Earl Jones.
Right.
His voice, like, we still get Vader,
Yeah.
but not quite
It's not
the
quite.
Vader.
You can hear the age
you
as it
can.
goes on. Rogue One Vader, who's younger, sounds older
yeah.
than original series Vader.
You're right. Like, she's in the perfect age range. They modeled the character after her.
Right.
Right. And so it just made perfect sense. And we got to see it.
Yeah, we got Ahsoka. I'm blanking on her name.
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She cosplayed as
Yes.
Ahsoka Tano.
Yes. And she went to school with Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. You have that connection
Yes.
where art is imitated in
Yes.
life.
Absolutely.
And you have that connection to Ahsoka to Anakin.
Yeah.
To Ahsoka to Anakin.
Yeah, I mean,
and it is crazy.
And she came out and said this last week that she was quite literally fan cast
Yeah.
into this. And I can't remember who it was. There was someone out there in the Star Wars world
Yeah.
who just said,
Her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be her. And it was her.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll talk more about Ahsoka here in a couple minutes, because we both have said, Ahsoka's one of our favorite characters.
Yeah.
It is my favorite. She is my favorite
My
character.
favorite.
Yeah, I mean, both of us.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But like, I guess the question that I have for you, I feel pretty awesome about the connection to the greater Star Wars world, only from the sense of, like, we get to see those characters in live action. My biggest thing with Rebels and with Clone Wars is that the fans never really looked at it as real Star Wars, when I would counter that it's actually probably some of the best Star Wars.
No, and you could expand that out even more, is that the general fans are less likely to go
Correct.
into the TV shows because it's not as big or high production
Right.
in their mind.
Right.
As though animation and all that can oftentimes surpass efforts in live action film
Yes.
and budgets, but they are less likely to jump into that because it's not this big thing.
Right.
And with Mandalorian, it is a big phenomenon and talking point in culture to go like, hey, look, we got Disney Plus. We're going to get new Star Wars. We're going to get a Star Wars TV show. I know some people who immediately jumped to the Ewok TV show.
Oh, God, yeah.
And they have that in their mind as,
Yeah.
like, this is Star Wars TV shows.
Yeah.
So you get Mandalorian,
Yeah.
and you have this condensed world, a very, very personal and close world in season 1. Season 2 opens everything up.
Yeah.
And most of all, encourages people to go, wait, who is this?
Right.
Who's that?
Yes.
Why are they important? They can stand alone on their own. And you can go through Mandalorian and continue not to watch 2 of the best Star Wars TV shows ever produced.
Yeah.
But it's there for them. And
Exactly.
that's one of the things is I know where you're going with this question. And my initial concern was, how far are they going to take this opening up the world to what we are aware of?
Yes.
And I liked how close and personal the story was in season 1, because while there are threats, there are struggles that have to be overcome, it is very character-centric and very intimate with the character that
Right.
is struggling with it. With season 2, you're kind of pulled into all the chaos of other people's worlds, the history of other aspects.
The Skywalker
And
saga.
The Skywalker
Yeah.
saga. I was worried that it was going to get too big.
Yeah.
And upon reflection of that, I mean, it got big.
It got big.
It got big.
Huge.
But ultimately, Ahsoka, I already have my own thoughts on Ahsoka being probably the best Jedi to lead the new Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Being how between Anakin and Obi-Wan she was, her philosophies,
Yes.
her approach was probably the closest to true Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own notions of who Ahsoka is after the fall of the Jedi Order, after the rise back after the Empire falls. And I'd be lying if some of my notions were broken.
Yeah.
That I wasn't expecting Ahsoka to act the way she did.
Right.
She is Ahsoka.
100%.
She was portrayed as Ahsoka so fucking well.
Yes.
But at the same time, I had my own notions, and it applies to Luke in Episode 8.
Yeah.
It applies to Luke in Episode 8
Mm-hmm.
that we all had notions of who Luke Skywalker was going to be after the fall of the Empire, and then the fall of his own Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
Who is this person going to be? And it was made clear to us what Luke's mindset was after all of it.
Right.
And did it shock a lot of people? Yeah, you can go back to Twitter during all that, and oh boy, yeah, did people have hashtag trademarked opinions?
Yeah.
But he's also not wrong. We won't dive into that pit.
Yes, indeed.
But in the same vein of that, where, you know, the characters act in the world differently, and that doesn't make it wrong or bad.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka did what she could.
Yep.
She has a bigger mission, and we're probably going to be taking a look at that in the Ahsoka
indeed.
series.
Yeah.
So I have no complaints on that front.
Yeah, well, it kind of answered, like, the further answer my own question is, I feel much the same about the season 1. I really enjoyed the standalone nature of it. I think it was nice and refreshing at the time, especially right after, the Rise of Skywalker and the Last Jedi and Solo and all of the Disney BS,
and this isn't even the movies themselves.
Right.
It's the drama that was behind everything that was kind of lurking in the background, worried,
right,
or a mix of worried and excited,
right? Yeah,
because especially with Solo and after Episode 7, it was kind of in this weird area.
It was, yeah,
and there was a lot of like, hey, this person's nope, he's not. Oh, they're not.
Yeah,
and that left a lot of people, including us, unsure on the quality that was going to be coming out from Star Wars.
And it was finally like with Mandalorian season 1 was like, holy shit,
yeah,
they did it.
And I've said this before. Watching Mandalorian season 1 was like watching A New Hope for the first time again as an adult, getting to experience the unknown and the wonder of this world that was prepared in front of me. You even get the desert parallel that is just so present at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah,
that it feels so familiar, and it's taken in a slightly different route, but it's a genre you're familiar with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a space opera. It's a space western.
Yeah, I mean, it's a space western. It's a space opera. It is a space samurai story.
It's a space action.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of it. And so with season 2, we'd heard rumors coming into it that we're going to see a connection to the bigger world. And so I was a little bit more prepared. You know, you're going to start seeing with Matt and I, Matt's a little bit more traditional in some senses. Whereas like with me, I kind of expected it.
My approach to season 2 was, I mean, that would be great, but I'm not getting my hopes up.
Right.
I'm like, if they do, I really hope they do it right. And I wanted to keep my expectations down because of letdowns in the past.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I mean, that's the best way that, in my opinion, to experience anything new is not letting expectations or self-hype get in the way of what has actually been created in front of you.
Yeah.
And so when that time came, when Ahsoka's name was dropped 2 episodes before she actually shows up, I was like, all right, I am so in.
I texted him. I think it was a holy shit text.
Yeah, and then I go, it's not going to be next episode. It's going to be the next.
And I just remember just going, fuck, you know, like.
Yeah.
And that they did. Okay.
And they did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, the one thing that I will say is, like, watching Mando season 2 all in one sitting, one go. Like, I ate dinner in front of it. I did not stop watching the. I texted him. I'm like, all right, I'm watching it. And he was like, good luck with that.
Yeah, I was like, good luck with that. I'm like, I'm looking at my watch and I'm go, oh boy, that's a commitment at this time.
And I'll say this: the season flowed really, really well together. You know, kind of looking at the sum of all parts, all 16 chapters, they did a really good job of telling the story of Grogu.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of like neatly packaging that up.
Almost, because we all know what happens to Luke's temple.
Yeah, and
that's the only catch that I'm like, oh, this is so sweet.
Yeah,
what happens to Grogu? Are we gonna get an Ahsoka story for Grogu where he
lives?
Grogu. Are we gonna get hashtag Grogu lives, guys? All eventually 28 of you watching, please let's start a mini hashtag trend.
Yeah,
Grogu lives.
Start it now. And that's the thing. Like, they did wrap it up, and you know, we're gonna talk more specifically Ahsoka and Luke here in a second. We were kind of going into it. I remember talking. Is it Ezra? Who could it be?
We were talking.
Who could it
if
be?
It was Ezra?
Yeah, I mean, I really did. Honestly, I was not thinking that Luke was going to be. I didn't think Star Wars had the balls.
No, especially after that they were saying that they were distancing themselves from the Skywalker trilogy.
I didn't think they had the balls.
I didn't think they were going to do it because, I mean, they literally just said that they're stepping away from the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, if they are stepping away from this, who could it be?
Right.
The only 2 names we came up with was
Cal
and Ezra.
Right. And
those are the only 2 we know are probably still alive.
Right. And we went for an entire week going back and forth. Is it Cal? Is it Ezra? Is it Cal? Is it Ezra?
If it would have been Cal,
that
would have been incredible. Tying in, that's back. I mean, not saying that the order of less important to most important is video games, TV shows, movies.
Right.
But that is a backwards connection. To go TV show to go to hey, as a video game.
Has a video game gone from video game? I don't know. To movie. Has it been
any traditional? Any established character,
I guess, outside of never has a character emerged from a video game to appear in a TV show as a standalone actor
within Star Wars.
Within Star Wars, yeah, and I don't think it happens too often. Like, in the video game world, you know this much better than I do.
I nothing's coming to mind.
I can't
maybe from Shattered Empire.
Oh,
I'm blanking on his name.
Why am I blanking on his name too?
In the video portion of this, If I find something, I will put it on screen right now. If there is a video game that's made it into any other medium.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of anything right now.
Right, and that was the thing for us. Like, we were both like, Cal, because I mean, I just finished Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I will maintain that it's one of the greatest games.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. It's for, I think, the best Star Wars game.
Yeah, I mean,
outside of Knights of the Old Republic, and we can't
talk about that.
Talk about it because he hasn't.
I haven't.
Yet.
I need to start on that.
Yes,
I need to start on that. I know some Sith Lords.
Yeah.
The Nihilus.
Darth Nihilus. Yeah.
Yeah. Which you've heard the villains of Light of the Jedi, right?
Mm-mm.
They made the name public.
I haven't paid attention to that.
A marauder group called the Nihil.
Interesting.
And in looking up art for the Nihil, because I wanted to get their logo, because it is a cool sounding logo from the description.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that Google is like, oh, did you mean Darth Nihilus?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are from the KOTOR series. I'm not going to click on you.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I know of him. I know of others, but that's one of the things that I've stayed away from because hey, that's one of the few aspects that's still fresh to me.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to get through this. This is going to be pretty awesome. Although
so we were talking about Cal.
Yeah.
And that would have been amazing.
Yes.
Same thing with Ezra. We don't know where Ezra is right now.
Right.
And I
right.
mean,
I
think we were getting our hopes up a little too much because I was disappointed with, you know, like, oh, you guys did do Luke. Yeah. And that was only on the first watch. And the second one, I'm like, okay, yeah, who else would it have been? Because
I brought it up.
Especially with Ahsoka series, like that's, who knows, but that might be, you know, part of what her show's about is her search for Ezra coming off of the stuff from Mandalorian after the Empire falling.
Exactly.
So did we get? I mean, I thought, you know, it would be really cool to see Ezra. I mean, we had that connection with Bo-Katan and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So
and
in my mind,
it would make sense, especially with Filoni running it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he has done nothing but bring his characters in.
Yes.
And thank God for that. Because once again, like Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels.
It's a subtle hint of going, watch the cartoons.
Watch the cartoons for the love of it's amazing.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
and I love that as he keeps bringing in his characters, going, hey, look, their stories, despite Clone Wars being done, despite Rebels being done, their stories aren't
still
done.
Continue, right? And
they're not done yet until I kill them off,
right? Exactly. And he did it with, he brings Maul back.
Yeah, he brings Maul back
in both series, and treats Maul so incredibly well. Maul is one of the best parts of Rebels,
and I think this we need to talk about, since this is Mandalorian. We're talking about season 2.
Yeah, Darth
Maul was brought up. We need to talk about a certain Fett of Boba.
Yeah,
Boba. That's making me thirsty. I want Boba right now.
Right.
Boba Fett. Boba Fett was brought back. Episode 1.
Episode 1. Yes.
Like immediately at the end, I'm like, it is 1:00 in the morning.
Yes.
And I'm going, holy shit.
Yes.
He's back.
And it's not just, I mean, it's not like we're getting some reprisal. We're getting some we're not getting just some random actor.
Yeah.
We get him.
Yeah. We get the guy who played
Jango
Fett.
Yes.
To play Boba Fett.
We get Rex. We get Cody. We get that voice. We get, for lack of a better term, the core of what the Clone Wars were, right?
We get one of the core elements, the key players.
Yes.
From that.
Yeah, and I was going to say with the Luke thing, just to kind of bring it right around back real quick, you know, with Filoni bringing in, you know, Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and all that, he's treating his characters well.
Yeah.
But he's treating Lucas's characters so incredibly well.
Yeah.
Like, Boba, like, you can't, when he puts on that armor,
Yeah.
when he comes flying in, it's just pure badassery.
Yeah. You see him at like
his, like, this is Boba older.
This is old Boba.
This is old
and
Boba.
And he's fighting at a prime.
And, like, when he fires his knee rockets,
actually being used instead of just being decorative.
Yes, when he fires his knee rockets and the troopers are like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Yeah, there are a couple scenes in Mandalorian season 2 where I stopped my second watch through and repeated a scene like 4 to 6 times. Man, for Boba Fett, it was the guy who hits his head on the rock and something else on the way down.
Yes.
Just gunk gunk.
Yeah.
And falls to the ground.
Yeah.
Also in that scene, when he just takes the stick and just whacks.
Oh, God.
Whacks the trooper's helmet in the same brutality that we see in season 1 with the Master Forge person.
Yes.
And then they do something I wasn't expecting. They fucking cut to it.
Yeah, they show it.
show the shattered helmet of this trooper, and that guy's not coming back up.
No.
He is going to be 6 feet under soon.
Well, let's go ahead and, I guess, in the review, let's go back right now to when the Slave One appears in that episode.
Yeah.
Like, we were given Boba in the beginning of, like, we're episode 9.
Yeah.
Right? At the very end, we're given this moment of, like, holy shit. And then everything else happens along the way in the season, and you almost forget. It's almost like, I remember thinking,
it's almost a little Easter egg that's like, he's still around,
but
what is he up to?
We're gonna do nothing with it, right? And that's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then, when the tragedy happens, like, one thing I really loved about the latter half of the season was, you're expecting the Mando to, like, side quest and do his thing. These last few episodes was straight right to the point. Yeah. There is no fucking around.
Yeah.
We're going to get right to the story, and here we go. Like, you think that this is the end. Like, we're here to meet the Jedi. I had no expectation that we were going to get right to Typhon in the next episode after the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right? I was not expecting that. And they go right there, and then they immediately just hit you right in the face with it.
Yeah.
And then here comes the Slave One.
Yeah.
I was sitting there losing my goddamn mind.
Yeah.
Like,
the engine sound. Just the going over and you go, oh.
They're doing it. They did it. They did it. And the cool thing about it was, like, when you hear his blaster first off, his blaster is a very unique sound. Kind of like Padme's blaster.
Where it's a more
yes, his blaster has a very specific sound.
Yeah.
So when he comes in firing at Mando, it's like, oh, it's here. Like, we're here.
Same thing with the turrets on Slave One.
Oh, or the freaking the pulse mine.
Yeah.
Oh, just a boom.
And any weapon that fires and it goes silent.
Yes.
Before anything happens is just auditory and visual, just euphoria.
Absolutely. So I mean,
you're right. He does give not only his characters just the love that they deserve, he gives established characters the love they deserve.
And the respect.
That
is something that we did not get out of the sequel trilogy.
He turns 2 characters that got the short end of the stick.
Yes.
And gave them, like, 80% of their story.
Yes.
Darth Maul and Boba Fett. We're getting the Boba Fett series.
Yes.
We are going to get more Fett.
We're going to get more
We're going to see what Fett actually does other than
be a complete badass.
What?
Yeah.
Bonk, hitting and flying off into the Sarlacc pit.
Yes.
By the way, that jetpack has a metal patch over where he was hit.
Oh my God, I didn't catch that.
His jetpack has a patch on it over where Han Solo hit the jetpack.
And what's funny is in the first episode of season 2, when Cobb Vanth has it, he hits him in the exact same spot and he takes off. when he hands him Grogu
Yeah.
and then hits that spot and he just takes off, it's like, oh my God, yes.
I remember that thing. It was so funny. And then they actually go like, oh, you thought Boba Fett was a funny character? No,
he's not.
He is a fucking badass. You get the hint that he's maybe a bit more moral,
right?
In Mandalorian season 2, and then he goes, "All right, hi Jabba's palace."
Yep.
Bye.
Exactly. And that's let's talk.
Bye, Bib Fortuna. Bye, Bib Fortuna.
Big fat Bib Fortuna. Exactly.
He's gone. I'm taking this throne. This is my place now.
Yes.
Get ready for. Oh, you thought Boba was slightly a good guy? No, he's still a bounty hunter.
He is still the most dangerous bounty hunter
in the galaxy.
Well, and let's talk a second about Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
Like I love the fact that we don't know in the episode of Mando season 1 that she lives.
She lives.
You know, and when she pops up and she's like, it looks like you've seen a ghost. Now, I love that because they're able to read his body language despite not being able to see his face.
Yeah. Dude.
So good. She's like, you look like you've seen a ghost. And when it cuts to him, it looks like he's seen a ghost.
You can tell that his helmet is
like
slightly farther back, closer to his chest
and he's
than normal.
Yes, and he's just like...
And at the same time, the body posture of Mandalorian is still funny when he's in the troop outfit.
Yes.
And he is rigid in the seat, not moving.
Yes.
And he's in the world's, it is canonically accurate to say, the shittiest armor.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, go back, like, the respect paid.
The respect's paid.
Yeah, and that's why I think that, you know, to kind of full circle on that question.
Yeah.
That's why I've had not a big problem with it.
Yeah.
Because they've done it so well. They took all of those things, all those little references, all of those fan service things, right? Like, to see Bo-Katan, to see Maul in Rebels and in Clone Wars, that's all fan service. And it's done in such a way, but then you give the story and you give the respect that the character is deserving of.
Exactly. He's fleshed out on these characters that have been dying to be fleshed out.
Right. And then to go Luke.
Yeah, to go Luke.
At the very end.
At
the very end, you have something to say.
Yes, I do.
Say it.
Real quick. The sniper lady.
Fennec Shand,
Yeah. We're getting Fennec Shand in
Bad
Batch. We're getting her story continuing to be told. And
on the reverse end of it.
Where she
on the
barely
forward end of it.
She shows up in one episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She shows up in the last 3 episodes of Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
And now she shows up in
Bad
Batch. I almost call it Clone Wars because it looks so similar.
Clone Wars season 8.
Clone Wars season 8.
Yeah.
Just when you thought everything was done. What if we took the Jedis out of the picture and it was still a good show?
Yeah. You know, in talking about Luke, you know, I did mention, you know, we were talking about could it be Cal? Could it be Ezra?
Right.
You know, could it be... Did I even throw out the idea of it being... oh, God, what's his name? Mace Windu? I think I threw that out
I think
once.
you threw it out, but I rolled my eyes at that one.
He rolled his eyes hella hard at that one.
Yeah, look, again... The only way that Samuel L. Jackson comes back to live action play Mace Windu
is in a flashback.
Is in flashback form.
Yeah, and we are going to get a ton of that. Yeah. You know, and so to come back to Luke again. You know, the thing that I found really interesting about that scene, like, you know, there's all this anticipation. I remember that feeling of sitting there and you knew something was going to happen.
Yes.
You had that feeling, like they did such a good job. The cinematography was doing such a, like, start, stop. You had the dark troopers marching into the hallway, and then the slow punch, the one-by-one punch. And it's not slow. It's not it's not fast. It's
methodical.
It's methodical.
It's robotic.
Right. And there's a sense, I just get this feeling that, like, okay, it's happening, right?
Yeah, if they're not making an effort, a big, like, desperate effort to get in, then this is obviously pacing for something that's going to show up.
Exactly. You know, and so that moment when you see the X-Wing, and the fact that you see the X-Wing in black and white, I love the fact that you see the X-Wing in black and white, because we know that it's red. If we see red, it's Luke.
It would give it away too quickly. It would give it
away. Like, the X-Wing already, I knew as soon as the X-Wing popped up, I was about 90% it's Luke.
I wonder how the New Republic feels about Luke Skywalker keeping his X-Wing, keeping it from being part of the fleet.
I can actually answer that question a little bit. So in episode 9, when it's right after Leia dies,
right,
and Dominic Monaghan, his character, the guy from Lord of the Rings, he's like, hey, Red 5 is popping up on our screens or on our scopes. It's Skywalker, right? And it's Rey coming back, right? Or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's still designated as Red 5.
It's still,
Luke is still technically Red 5.
See, you can say that.
Yeah.
In my mind,
yeah,
Luke Skywalker just lifted an X-Wing.
I mean, it makes sense.
I earned this.
This is mine,
I
bitch.
blew up a Death Star for this.
Two of them.
No, he didn't blow up 2.
That's right. That was just the one.
That was just the one.
That's the one.
Jordan.
That's correct. That's right.
I blew up a motherfucking Death Star for this. I have to deal with the trauma of my father dying in my arms. The least you can do is let me keep one X-Wing.
Exactly.
So this is mine. I'm going to detach and reattach this door miraculously on this island.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about
funny.
that.
It's just
too hilarious.
too funny not to mention. But this is my motherfucking X-Wing.
Absolutely.
This has fucking graffiti that says R2-D2 was here inside of his little slot.
That's right.
This is my X-Wing.
Yeah.
So much for not having material attachments, Luke.
Exactly. Well, but
it's too easy to rip on that.
It is too easy.
He is not traditional Jedi, and that's the power of Luke.
Exactly. One that the beauty of it though is, like, you know, you see the fighting. You know, and one of the things that I really thought about, especially after watching, you know, episode 16 the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time, Luke that we see in the sequel trilogy is non-violent, right?
Also jaded.
Very jaded, but, you know, non-confrontational. Luke isn't about killing people, and we see in Battlefront 2 actually has a pretty good story to it once you go through the actual missions. And in one of the missions, you come in as Luke Skywalker, and you meet Del, who is Iden Versio's like partner, part of Inferno Squadron,
right? And
they're both looking for one of Palpatine's part of Operation Cinder, I guess. It's part of one of his like bases that he had scattered around, and this was on planet Pelio. Luke comes in, and it's very much the same Luke that we see in Mando season 6. Dark, he's wearing the dark robes, but he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to kill people, but he winds up doing it, and he comments on it as when he's talking to Del at the end of the mission. I don't like killing people, right? It's not his thing. And so, you know, we had always wanted to see, I know for me personally, I'd always wanted to see full power Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
We never really got to see it.
We
get taste of it.
We get taste of it
in The Last Jedi.
In 6.
And in 6, you know, but even then, like, technology in 83, we didn't get to see the crazy lightsaber combat.
We don't get to see the same levels of force powers that we've seen since then, exactly.
You know, and that Star Wars then is different than Star Wars now, right?
Yeah, just take the lightsaber combat in 4.
Exactly. Exactly. Steam 38 reimagined, by the way. If you haven't watched it, watch it.
It's still. I still like the original because it's two old dudes. It's two old dudes, and one of them's a fucking mostly robot now. He's not gonna flow.
He's not gonna flow, and it makes sense. And so, But Luke is very much he's passive. Like, he doesn't want to hurt. And we get to see Luke full power because he's fighting droids.
Yeah.
Right? And the scene dichotomy where you get to see the thing where he pops in at the end of the hallway, and then you put that side by side with Rogue One with his
Vader
father
scene.
and the Vader scene. There are many, many parallels there. And, Vader obviously is just going in and being complete badass and force choking fools, throwing them around the place, almost like a more mature version of of Grogu tossing the stormtroopers around, which was pretty awesome.
That Vader scene is essentially slasher Vader.
Yes, it is slasher Vader. That is Vader, like, I think that was the most Vader that we ever get to see outside of Anakin Episode 3 at the very end fighting Obi-Wan.
And even then, that's not him in his suit.
Right.
And
right.
And I thought you were going to say the scene where he kills all of the
Sand people?
The separatists.
Oh, the separatists, yeah.
That I thought you were going to say that one because you have two lightsaber dudes going at it. It's essentially two Jedi. He's fallen, but it's two dudes who have a strong disagreement
two blue lightsabers.
Exactly. And the Rogue One scene is just the most Vader.
You feel his rage.
You feel everything. You feel like there's no smooth movements in that.
No.
It is on, off, on just hard movements.
Hard, stiff movements,
moving people. Boom, boom.
Right.
Floor, ceiling, cut across.
Right.
Luke, I will have to rewatch it again in his scene. It's not more fluid. A bit more fluid, but it also feels less intense.
It feels less intense. But
it's also, it's the lighting in the scene.
Correct.
It's the fact that this is a Jedi. There was supposed to be a dead Jedi to show up, so this is like a good thing, right? He's saving us from all these things.
Right.
But you still, at the end, you have Luke force crush the Dark Trooper.
Yes, we see Luke touching the dark side.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's
beautiful. Like, Luke in that moment, like, when the doors open and the green lightsaber is lit, you got the smoke. In that moment, you have Luke just showing off.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, really, in the end, we saw Din, the Mando.
Yeah.
Barely able to take out one guy. Right?
I mean, I'm sure that he could just go, "Hey guys, go for the neck," and you could do relatively well.
Right. Yeah.
With the people they have.
Right.
Like, you could go well, but it would be close.
It would be close.
It would be a tense fight.
Yeah.
Luke
comes in and cuts through him like butter.
And then I think it's Bo-Katan who goes, after Mando says, "Open the doors," she goes, "It's like, that's a good idea. Is that like, are you crazy?" And he goes, "I'm like, this is a Jedi who just saved your sorry asses."
By the way, Moff Gideon and how afraid he was once he realized it was a Jedi which Jedi it was. Oh, that was so tasty. Because Moff Gideon, like, we need to, Giancarlo Esposito, like, as, Gus Fring in Breaking Bad.
Yes, it's
such a badass. Like, he is such a he's such a good bad guy.
He's played, of the things I've seen him, he's played my favorite good bad guys.
Yes, and you get this little taste of him at the end of season 1, right? And then he's sprinkled throughout season 2, and he is just so manipulative. I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that Din fought Moff Gideon for the Darksaber, and the fact that Mando is now the leader of Mandalore.
And that was all part of his plan.
It was all part of his plan. All he was trying to do was break everyone up. Like, he wanted that he wanted
to sow division
exactly
in the group that was against him.
And he did.
Yeah.
And we just saw the plot for season 3 laid out right before us.
And unlike season 1, it wasn't overtly stated.
No.
That's where at the end, after watching it my first time, I'm like, it cuts to black. I go, wait, what?
Right.
What? That's it?
Like, you're not giving us anything else?
Anything else? No, exactly. That was my first reaction, was going, what? And then, I go back and I'm like, I watched again. And I'm like, he's got the Darksaber.
Yep.
There's the plot. There's the struggle in the next season is how is Bo-Katan, a gray character?
Yes.
A gray character.
Yeah.
Gonna deal with this.
Yeah.
With our hero.
Exactly.
You're also trying to be a hero.
So who gets to be the anti-hero?
Yeah.
Like, how does that play out? And I love the writing in that, like, because same thing. When it cut to black, and I sat there and we waited.
I waited.
You never sit through Mandalorian credits.
Yeah.
Because, like, once it says skip to the next episode, there's like another 9 minutes of credits afterwards.
Exactly.
So I'm sitting there just kind of waiting and going, okay, we're getting different music, we're getting different this. And then it cuts, and I guess the most probably beautiful segue into the next segment is, by the way, season 2 of Mandalorian, we barely scratched the surface. We barely talked about Cobb Vanth. We very.
I mean, I want to briefly touch on Cobb Vanth.
Yeah.
The fact that he makes it from a book, from the I almost said Lost Stars, the Aftermath trilogy.
Yeah.
He's an interlude character whose story is told between 3 books.
Yeah.
On his story, you
might get a chapter or 2 total out of that. Yeah.
And you then take him, and back in season 1 of Mandalorian, people are going, those jingling sounds when stepping around when he was in the thing, that could have been Boba Fett.
Right.
And I go, and we also note that now the Mando also has the jingle.
Yeah.
And that Boba was in Mandalorian armor and still made that jingle. I think he just makes the jingle sound with his mouth wherever he walks.
He's got the didgeridoo, do the wah, wah, wah.
Yes, exactly. So the fact that he shows up and you hear these spurs clink together, people going, it's Boba Fett, it's Boba Fett. And I'm like, the smart move would be Cobb Vanth.
Yeah,
I said that back in season 1. It'd be Cobb Vanth because we're like, we're under the assumption that Boba's dead.
Yeah,
and we've had the books and we've heard about the guy who's in his armor.
Yeah, and we knew that it was his armor.
We knew that it was Fett's armor because it was explicitly stated that it's not your armor, that's someone else's armor.
And let's talk for a second about Timothy Olyphant, who portrayed Cobb Vanth. I mean,
very, very good.
Perfect.
Very good.
Perfect casting. Yeah. Like, you, at no point along the way did you feel ever intimidated by him. Like, when he's doing his little narrations while he's riding on Anakin's freaking pod racer as his freaking speeder, by the way. Like, are you kidding me? What Filoni did with Cobb Vanth riding Anakin's...
A piece of
Anakin's pod racer, that's like the fan service of the century.
And also, that's something that fan service goes like, oh, anyone watch the original, like, just a set of movies could recognize, could go, oh, that's
a pod race piece.
That's a pod race piece.
Yeah, and so, like, when Timothy Olyphant's, like, narrating over that part where he's talking, like... There's no shouting. Like, you would expect, like, pure noise to be happening, right?
You would think,
I think that's actually a bit of an oversight, a little bit. But I actually appreciated the storytelling aspect of that. Because he's sitting there just telling Mando about what's going on. Right? And the lay of the land and all that jazz. And I thought that was done so incredibly well. And it was his character, his voice. Like... When they're sitting there about to face off in the cantina, we get a cantina scene, like right at the beginning of it.
Right at the beginning.
And like you have them facing off, and then he just holds up his finger when the crate dragon's rolling through. He just holds up his finger like, no, actually we can't fight right now. Hold on one second. One second. And he gets up, and immediately, as soon as Mando sees what's going on, like instead of like wanting to kill him for his armor. He wants to like help him for the armor.
Right.
You know, and like that is just such a cool little thing. I don't know why like I went
like you attach to that, but
Yeah.
like also like you have Cobb Vanth who you just meet and you go, okay, who is this guy?
Right.
What is his jive?
Yeah.
Like, how is he going to handle this? And he takes it like, look, I'm protecting these people.
Right.
If you want it,
You can have it.
You can have it.
But you got to help me first.
But also, like you're gonna have, if you have to kill me, all right, you have I get it. Just like let me finish this drink, stand up,
Right.
and like, all right, here we go.
Are you sure you want to do this in front of the kid?
He's like,
He's seen worse.
yeah. Mando, how do you not understand that? That's not better.
Right. We see that as this season goes on.
It's Cobb Vanth was just so well portrayed and carried over from the books, from the character
Almost
that
perfectly.
is hinted at the books.
We get to see Mos Pelgo.
Mos Pelgo.
I mean, like, we've only ever heard of that in Legends. Like,
the only bit of gripe that I have is how in Mando is slightly muddies his story from that was set up in the Aftermath trilogy.
Agreed.
Where he was a slave,
right.
where in Mando he just kind of escapes from being, and it's also unclear how long it takes him to get back to Mos Pelgo,
Right.
where he goes, okay, was it days,
months?
years? Yeah, it's like, how long has it been? It seems like everyone's still there who was captured, so that's the only thing where I'm like, but at the same time, like, we get Cobb Vanth.
Yeah.
We get a fucking crate dragon in this episode.
So, and the one thing, that I want to pull from that episode.
Right.
And you pointed it out to me, and I didn't catch it. But
yes.
So we were widescreen the entire episode up until the point where the crate dragon comes out of his cave.
Yes, and then it goes full screen.
And then it goes full screen because it needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
Beautiful cinematography.
Yeah.
I like, and it was done so subtly, and it was done in such like an old, it almost felt old westy, like a western sort of thing. Like, okay, bitches, it's about to get big. Here we go. And it was done so subtly, I never noticed it. And what I noticed is on the backside of it, when it
slows back down,
when it comes back down,
and that is so Western, where it goes,
yeah,
and where you hone in on the eyes.
Yes.
Except, it doesn't do that, but it brings in the spirit of that.
And it's such a I think it was Favreau directed.
I think it was
episode.
Favreau.
Yeah, and it just
Also,
my God.
I want to make note of how the crate dragon just makes that mountain look like it's made of cotton candy when he bursts through.
When he bursts through it,
because you expect some resistance from that mountain, and then he just bursts out of it like
no
it's
big deal.
One-ply toilet paper.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is like I kind of felt bad for the sand people because when he was spraying his acid, it got only a few humans.
My brother pointed that out. Actually, he goes, "Why aren't some of the humans dying?
Yeah,
why is it all the sand people?
It's all the sand people. It's
like he gets like 5, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
But meanwhile, sand people are like getting eaten by it.
Yeah,
just like
no big deal. My favorite scene of that whole thing is when they're trying to get him out for the first time, and they leave the bantha for him, and he eats him instead.
He's the sand person.
So good.
We're open to new ideas.
They're open to new ideas. And you know what's funny is like, going episode by episode, I would definitely agree, like the Frog Lady episode.
It's a slower one.
It is a slower one, but a couple of things that I kind of took from it, the spider design, it's obviously classic Ralph McQuarrie, right? And then we see that design.
I also love to see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But we also get to see, I guess, for lack of a better term, Mando and the decisions that he's starting to make.
Yeah.
Making a difference, right? You see the New Republic come in and saying, you should be under arrest. But these are trying times.
Yeah.
And it's because we're going to ignore you right now because although you did break into this prison ship.
Yeah.
And you did cause a bunch of problems, you did try to save this New Republic guy, and you did actually wind up giving us 5 in return.
Yeah, you
right?
did end up doing more good than you did harm.
Exactly.
And we have more important things
right.
to tackle than someone who is, we'll just say like 75% positive and then arresting you on that 25%.
Exactly. And those two characters, obviously Trapper Wolf,
Trapper Wolf.
Filoni, and then the other guy, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. He's like a big-time Canadian actor, which makes me happy because I am Canadian. But those two, I think it's fantastic. Like they're little bit pieces through there. Like,
and then he shows up later giving the Marshal
to Cara Dune,
yeah.
and stuff like that. But you see in the wider world of what's happening with Mando, and then in the episode 3 we've talked a bunch about one of the things that really interesting about that episode is beyond Bo-Katan and
4.
Is that 4?
I think it's 4. I think 3 was the Frog Lady.
Episode 4 with the Mandalorians and what have you. The thing that I found really interesting about that episode was the fact that the Quarren and the Mon Cala were on the same planet together.
Yeah, they're also
coexisting.
Yeah.
Like, obviously not happily.
Right.
But they're in the same...
But relatively peacefully.
Yeah, and I do love how they made the Quarren dickheads. Yeah. I think that's so perfect. They're just assholes.
They're deeper sea beings than...
Yeah, exactly.
And
I do love the fact that the water planet is being inhabited by Mon Cala and Quarren. It just makes sense.
I think the other standout, the big standout, is we got the answer for why Din Djarin keeps his helmet on all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the fact that he is part of essentially a cult.
Yeah, he's a child of the Watch.
That spread off from Death Watch.
Yes.
Being a child of the Watch.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Doi, makes sense.
Well, and it goes back to the first season of Mandalorian as well, when we see one of the Vizslas. They only reference him in the credits. Is it Tor or is it Tar? I can't remember.
It's something like that. But it's a 3-letter word.
It's a 3-letter Vizsla, and obviously the Vizslas are responsible for Death Watch.
Right.
And I love the fact that he's like, oh, he's one of them.
Right.
And she's like, oh, that kind of, you could tell that they kind of felt crunchy a little bit to her. Yeah,
they're like,
ooh, she's like, really?
You are a part of a cult.
Yeah, but the thing that really kind of bothered me was like how Bo-Katan was dropping the, this is the way. It did bother me a little bit. The first time she dropped it, it was kind of like, I'm doing this to be a bit of a bitch.
Right.
And then at the end, she drops, when, thank you for helping us.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to thank you.
Right.
Like, this is the way.
Right.
And this is the way he repeats it back, but yeah, I find that one to be really interesting in that it finally establishes like what we knew about Mandalorians versus,
because we're struggling with it. We were talking about all the other ones.
Why does Sabine never have to wear her helmet the entire time? Like why was it this way? What happened during the purge that they have to keep their helmets on?
Right, and it was answered, well, he's just kind of part of a cult.
Part of a cult, yeah. And so once that happens, you see him start to challenge his own perceptions of things,
right.
And you see that challenge of perceptions going forward as well.
I mean, the biggest one is when they're getting the location for, I almost said Garrick.
Nice. Star Trek.
Star Trek. Getting Moff Gideon's location.
Yeah.
That's the main episode. We're skipping episodes, but that's the main one where he really confronts that.
Yeah.
And look, this is for the greater good.
Yes.
I have to give this up. I have to
put aside what I believed a true Mandalorian to be.
And go by the actions I want to stand by.
Exactly, And so, I mean, and to kind of speed this up maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit, as we kind of roll through with these final couple episodes, we
had Ahsoka, because we talked about Ahsoka.
We talked about Luke, we talked about Ahsoka. I guess the biggest thing, and we'll talk more about the last couple episodes of Mandalorian. We're going to be talking a lot about it throughout the year. In the siege
Yeah.
The episode of the Siege when they somehow casually in like 3 minutes of the episode did a better job of exploring Snoke and Palpatine than they did in the entire sequel trilogy. I thought that was genius.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, they still believe that Gideon was dead, and they find out through the cloner that that's not the case.
That's not the case.
Like,
this was sent 3 days ago.
Yeah.
They also just did a better job of handling midichlorians
Yes.
and going like, look, they had something special. Why wouldn't the Empire go like, hey, maybe we could use this? I mean, you had Palpatine who made competitors to Darth Vader to challenge him, and Darth Vader took care of those.
Right.
Those guys, they had the Inquisitors.
Right.
And so, you take someone who's former ISB, who, I mean, ISB, we know that they worked with the Jedi before they were ISB.
Yularen and all that.
Yeah. And so you take all the knowledge that they have, you have someone he goes, okay, well, there were these space wizards.
Right.
Like, what if we just, like, either cloned them and, like, went, brainwash you, you're part of the Empire, you're working for us, or inject it into other beings and see if we can control them that way.
Yeah, I mean, and they did such an amazing job of exploring that, and it makes me happy. I really hope they do explore that more going forward, So, I mean, I guess to kind of wrap up season 2, we talked a lot about it.
We talked a lot.
We talked a lot about it.
Overall, like...
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't ever say enough about how awesome it's been to sit here and watch Mandalorian for the last 2 seasons. It makes me a little sad that it's going to be a little while before we get to watch more.
Like, 2 years, I think?
Yeah.
Because the Book of Boba comes out before them.
Yeah, and there keeps... COVID's a bitch.
Yeah.
This pandemic has been a bitch. Everything that we love is getting delayed. Obviously, everybody out here listening to this podcast has been affected by it in some way.
Yep.
For us nerds, how we're going to be most directly affected by it is by having to wait. Discovery Season 4 is going to take forever. Picard Season 2 is going to take forever. Lower Decks Season 2 is going to take forever. We got a long time, and so that's kind of why we're doing this right now. Like, we're going to fill up that time to talk about it and all that jazz. Season 2 of Mandalorian.
Season 2 was
amazing.
Really good.
Yeah.
I had worries on how big it was going to go, but I mean, at the end of the day, who else was it going to be but Luke?
Yeah.
And I mean, look, it was handled well.
It was.
Yeah.
And the sky's the limit. I can't wait for
also Mark Hamill was.
It's
the
Mark
voice,
Hamill.
so.
If you guys haven't seen the reaction to Mark Hamill's reaction to watching himself portray it, it's funny and it's touching and it is quite amazing. So, kind of I guess what's next? For next week, it's going to be the same thing, but for Discovery. It's going to be more of a Star Trek focused episode. And with that being said, I do want to say that Discovery, I couldn't think of a better way to end that season. There are some things that I've got some concerns about.
And I'm curious. I feel like just in general,
we haven't talked about it yet, by the way.
One or two things that have stood out.
Yeah.
But it's not like clear on like why. So I'm curious on what your concerns, your thoughts are about the Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Ending.
So just for reference, I'm opening another restaurant right now. So I haven't been here all week. This is actually the first time I've seen him this week.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk anything about it, and we probably might not get a chance
we'll probably hold off a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit. Yeah, so, we're kind of in this weird spot right now where it's like, what can we, how are we at with Season 3 on Discovery? So that's where we're going to go.
Yeah.
It might be more of you might actually hear more of us nerding out.
Yeah, I think mostly because we've had little bits and pieces but the finale set, it's been disjointed for us because we haven't exactly been together to talk about too much.
So it's going to be awesome. And then I guess kind of to, you heard us talking about a little bit focused videos. We're gonna be trying some different things this week. Maybe taking. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Yeah,
Just
look
be on the
forward.
lookout. Yeah, be on the lookout for all of that. But there's also going to be some like standalone videos. We're both going to try flexing our creativeness and seeing what we can't do out there. And then a big thing that we've got looking at doing is possibly like nerd projects.
Yeah, IRL nerd projects.
Yeah, so like kind of one of the first thoughts is maybe doing the classic Home Depot lightsaber build.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. And then as an aside, I'm going to compliment the person sitting across from me right now.
Thank you. This person sitting across from me is also quite fine.
That's awesome. But I'm going to say, like, for me, I do a lot of the writing. I try to focus on, keeping the thing going. Obviously, we've been talking for 2 hours, so that's obviously not a problem. But everything else that's happening on the back end, all the design and all that jazz has been done by this guy. I've been helping out where I can, but I am finding that I'm old and that I'm starting to get a little bit behind because I actually need his help with the Facebook issue.
I mean, hey, everyone has a Facebook issue.
Facebook is an issue. But I just want to give a compliment to him. I am his boss in real life, and if I had known that he was this talented, I probably would have pushed him to be doing this sooner.
It's a good thing there's no video portion. I'm turning a little red.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of this has to do with him. He's one kind of making this happen, and so I just want to say thank you. This has been awesome doing this so far. I'm learning a lot, and I can't wait to learn. Yeah, I can't wait to learn some more. So, I think that's what I got for this week. Once again, like I said, there's not going to be any real format to this. We're just going to kind of talk. I had threatened a top 10 list. They might show up at some point. But I think once again, this is going to be just more of the format for how we're going. And so for me, it's kind of, I'm really thankful that you guys are here and listening. If you listen this far, wow. So for me, I just want to say thank you for listening. We are on SoundCloud. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. Check those links down below. We would love any sort of comments and what have you, what you guys have to say. And please comment. Please ask questions. Please, participate. We would love to see a little bit of that. So for me, that's what I got. Do you have anything to say?
Can I do the outro?
You certainly can.
Thank you guys for listening, and we are all the Republic.